Final cuts are in, preseason is behind us, and it's time to lock in my top 25 rookie rankings heading into week 1. These aren't just based on draft capital. I'm ranking them off of what I saw in preseason film, what I know from their college tape, and most importantly, the role that they are going to play in their offense right now. Some guys skyrocketed with strong camps, some slid because of depth chart realities, and we're going to cover all of it.
Ay.
Kicking things off at the top of my S tier, it's got to be Ashton Jeanty. I've talked about him enough. I know other creators have talked about him enough. There's not much to be said about Ashton Jeanty that hasn't already been said. Las Vegas Raider, historical season last year at Boise State. He's going to get probably 250 touches if he stays healthy. I have no reasons to believe he's injury prone. He's had a ton of carries throughout his past 2 seasons at Boise State. Yes, he started off a little bit slow in the preseason and then picked it up later on in the preseason. I think this kid is the most talented rookie in the NFL right now, and he's going to have a ton of work. Next up, we have a guy that I think is the second best rookie, and it's very close to Ashton Jeanty. I think he even has more upside than Ashton Jeanty, and it's Travion Henderson for the New England Patriots. Look, I've been saying this all offseason. He is my RB2 in this class, pre-draft and post-draft, and throughout preseason, he looked phenomenal. His first touch in an NFL preseason game, he goes 100 yards on a kick return for a touchdown. You saw every single time he got the ball, he was trucking somebody, juking somebody out of their shoes. He is just a menace, and I think he's got Jahmyr Gibbs upside if he hits his ceiling. He does have some durability issues. He's probably going to be in a timeshare with Ramondre Stevenson, but I think Travion Henderson gets about 70% of the carries, if not more, going towards the later half of the season. Then the final guy, a guy that I've had in my A tier a lot, and a lot of people give me a lot of hate for that. Omarion Hampton to the Los Angeles Chargers. He's in the perfect situation long-term with this Harbaugh offense. He's got the perfect skill set that fits what they want, a big, hard-nosed runner that has some really surprisingly good burst at his size. Omarion Hampton is an absolutely phenomenal runner. You saw what he did at North Carolina. Didn't really get too much action in the preseason, notably enough since they didn't know what was going to go on with Najee Harris. He seems like he's going to be healthy week 1. We'll see how much he plays the first few weeks. I do think Najee's going to be a bit annoying for Hampton owners, at least in the early stretches of the season. But in 2026, and they move on from Najee Harris, I think Omarion Hampton could easily be the next Josh Jacobs. That's the comp that I gave for him. So, yes, I think all 3 of these guys are very deserving of being in the S tier. Let's go ahead and take a look at our A tier. All right, at the top of my A tier, we have Ted McMillan for the Carolina Panthers, the most versatile wide receiver they have on this offense right now. Xavier Legette is more of a raw vertical X receiver that needs a little bit more development if he's going to be an NFL receiver consistently. You have Adam Thielen, who I think is in the twilight of his career. He's not getting any younger, and they're already looking to trade him. And then you have Jalen Coker, who's kind of a slot guy. You know, he's undrafted out of Holy Cross last year. He showed some promise, but definitely I think he's more of a depth option. Then you have Ted McMillan, who I think is more talented than all of those guys, and there's a reason why they drafted him as high as they did in the first round. He's got a ton of really high-end skills. His contested catch ability, his overall size is Drake London-esque. He's got really good yak ability as well. So I think he's going to be used over the middle of the field, short, intermediate routes, and then they'll throw him the jump ball here and there. I think he's going to lead the team in targets, and if Bryce Young and that Carolina Panthers offense can figure it out this year, I think Ted McMillan can finish as a top 18 wide receiver in terms of his finish in 2025. So he is my wide receiver 1 for a reason. Next up, we have another wide receiver, my wide receiver 2, who unfortunately could have been the wide receiver 1 if he landed in a better situation, but he lands with the Jaguars, and he's going to be the wide receiver 2 behind BTJ, and that's Travis Hunter, the generational prospect out of Colorado. Now, guys, I hate saying the word generational. He's truly generational. He's a two-way player. He can play both sides of the ball. He's got some of the best ball skills I've ever seen, just in general, over my 8+ years of watching tape. He is phenomenal. I think he's going to be used in the red zone a ton on these jump balls. I think because he just plucks the ball out of the air. He makes 50-50 balls look like 80-20 balls. That's just what he does. And I think he's poised to have a Devonta Smith type of role, with A.J. Brown being the BTJ in this offense. And Liam Cohen historically has done well with two wide receivers, making them both fantasy relevant with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. So I think the upside for Travis Hunter is higher, but overall he's got to be my wide receiver 2 because he is the wide receiver 2 in his own offense. Now, next up, we have Cam Ward, the first quarterback off the board. I am ranking these based off of a Superflex Dynasty League, 0.5 tight end premium. If you're in a 1 QB league, obviously, Cam Ward's going to be a lot lower than this. But I liked what he did in preseason. Solid stats. He showed some NFL caliber throws. His processing's a tad late for me. It's just nitpick stuff, really. As a rookie, he's looking really sharp. I don't think he's going to do particularly good in his rookie season, but he's the franchise guy. He's the first overall pick. He cannot be picked any later than the 106, in my opinion. Perfect value for him. Like I said, he will struggle a little bit early on, I think, just because of the processing issues and his overall lack of offensive weapons. But I think once Tennessee figures it out and gets him more weapons, I think Cam Ward can be a reliable QB2 at his peak. I don't think he's a QB1 or anything like that. Next up, we have Emeka Egbuka, a guy who's been rising up my rankings over and over. Jalen McMillan is probably out for a significant amount of time. I didn't really think he was going to threaten Emeka Egbuka's role very much. I think Emeka Egbuka being picked in the first round was already good enough for him to start over McMillan, but it already gives you an even more positive look at Emeka Egbuka. He will start in the slot for the Buccaneers. Mike Evans isn't getting any younger. Chris Godwin is coming off of foot surgery. We don't know if he's 100% healthy week 1. I know he just passed a physical. We'll see how he looks week 1. But Emeka Egbuka overall has just been stunning in camp. He's looked solid in the limited amount of time we've seen him in preseason. So Emeka Egbuka has a ton of upside after 2026. We think Mike Evans retires this year. Emeka Egbuka, his stock is rising and it's going to continue to rise all through the season and even in next year. So this is the perfect time to grab Emeka Egbuka. He's the perfect long play at receiver, and I think he can put up some decent stats this year as well. Next up, we have the first tight end off the board, and it's Tyler Warren. If you guys watched my hot takes video, I said Tyler Warren could lead the Colts in receiving yards this year out of all the wide receivers that are on that roster. So that's how talented I think Tyler Warren is. He's super versatile. I could see him getting some rushing touchdowns as well, maybe even a passing touchdown, depends on how flashy Shane Steichen wants to get with him. But we see Daniel Jones just spam targeting Tyler Warren. I think he's a great option in tight end premium formats, and he's got the yak ability, the bulldozer ability to just get a ton of yards after the catch. So Tyler Warren is definitely the guy that you're going to want to target if you need a tight end over Colston Loveland, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And then lastly, we have RJ Harvey for the Denver Broncos, a guy that I've been talking about back since February when he was projected to be a 5th round pick. RJ Harvey has exceeded all outcomes. He was a 2nd round pick by Sean Payton. He's looked great in preseason. I don't want to say great, but decent in preseason. He's had a good camp. They just released Audric Estime. So it's RJ Harvey and presumably J.K. Dobbins with Jaleel McLaughlin kind of fitting in the RB3 role. I think RJ Harvey will get the bulk of the carries. I think he's going to get all the passing down work. So he has a ton of upside. Let's go ahead and check out what my B tier is looking like. Before we get further into the video, if you're enjoying the content, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell so you don't miss any of my future videos. Also, if you want access to my full Dynasty rankings, you can check out the Google Doc link in the description below. It's completely free to view, and if you want to talk Dynasty all season long with the community, make sure to join the Bobby's Big Board Discord. The link is in the description. Alright, let's get right back to the video. At the top of my B tier, we have Caleb Johnson for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think he's the RB2 as far as week 1 goes, but I think by the mid-season mark, he will be the RB1 in this offense just because Jaylen Warren has proven he can't stay healthy for a long period of time, and I think that's when Caleb Johnson will come in. Arthur Smith loves his skill set, his type of running style. Arthur Smith loves that type of runner, so I think he's the perfect guy to sit in your flex spot if you need him. And hopefully you don't have to start him until midseason once he starts taking over that backfield. Next up, we got a guy that could easily be up there around the Tyler Warren, RJ Harvey range, and it's Quinshon Judkins for the Cleveland Browns. He got himself into some legal issues over the offseason, and he got cleared of any wrongdoings, which is good, but the NFL is doing their own investigation as of right now, and I think the Browns are holding off signing him until they figure the investigation part out. Once they do, Quinshon Judkins will be signed. The Browns have no issues signing somebody that's had former legal issues. They just picked up Isaiah Bond, so I think they have no issues with that once the NFL concludes their investigation. I've heard some rumblings of Quinshon going back to college. I promise you that will not happen, so that's just crazy talk, I think. And the only issue is, when is the investigation going to end? Is it going to be tomorrow? Is it going to be by week 3? We don't know. So with all of that in mind, he's got to go in my B tier, but once he gets signed and once he gets ready to suit up for a game, he will be in my A tier absolutely. Next up, we have the next tight end, and it's Colston Loveland. I wasn't a big fan of Colston Loveland as a fantasy football tight end, but I do love what he brings to the table in terms of real life football. I think he's a phenomenal blocker. I think he does everything right. I just like Tyler Warren's ability more in terms of the yards after the catch ability, the frame, everything like that. But Colston Loveland landing with the Bears, it's a crowded offense, so not great for him. But Ben Johnson loves using his tight ends. A lot of 12 personnel, getting his tight ends out in open space. He loves that. You saw what he did with Sam Laporta. Colston Loveland picked in the top 15 picks of the draft. He's going to be utilized by Ben Johnson, whether it's this year or next year once they get rid of Cole Kmet. I'm not sure, but he's definitely the tight end 2, and he's a great prospect to have on your roster. Don't be sad if he's on your dynasty rosters. He is still a very valuable player. Next up, we have a guy that's probably not going to play this year. Jackson Dart, quarterback for the Giants. Look, I was really terrified of Dart getting thrown into the fire and going to a team like the Browns or the Saints or something like that, where he had to play immediately because he was not ready. Or at least I didn't think he was ready. And he gets out there in preseason. He goes with the Giants where he doesn't have to start right away. He looked phenomenal throughout the preseason. I mean, he looked great. And even better, he gets to develop behind Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, and he gets developed by one of the better offensive minds in the NFL in Brian Daboll, the guy who was responsible for developing Josh Allen into what he is today. So Jackson Dart, I think he has a high ceiling. I think he's going to be a great high floor, high ceiling quarterback in 2026. Because he has a ton of weapons with Malik Neighbors, right? They'll get another wide receiver probably to pair with Malik Neighbors, and then Jackson Dart has a ton of upside once that happens. Next up, we have Matthew Golden for the Packers. I wasn't the biggest fan of Golden coming out of Texas. I didn't think he was fast. I didn't think he was as fast as he's shown in his 40 time, but in preseason, I was proven wrong a little bit. Not that he was super fast, but his hands showed up, his ball skills showed up, which I said were towards the top of the class. That was one of his biggest strengths, is he might be a little undersized, but he can go up and get the football, and I think that's what he's going to do with the Packers. I think he's going to be the vertical X receiver. His target numbers might be very inconsistent, but he can bring you in some big games because he is very good at contested catches. Matthew Golden, I'm not sure what his floor looks like. Hopefully they can figure out the target competition for the Packers, because they seem like they're all over the place. At least they were last year. We didn't know who was getting the bulk of the targets any given week. So hopefully they target him a lot more, and hopefully they target Jayden Reed a lot more, because I love picking up Jayden Reed in my Dynasty rosters. Next up, we have Luther Burden for the Bears. Now, he has a ton of yak ability. He was my wide receiver 3 coming out of the draft, and he's phenomenal, man. He just has a ton of upside in terms of the yak ability. You can put him on a screen and he can take it to the house. He's a lot faster than what you'd give him credit for. He's very elusive, and he can break through tackles like anyone's business. The problem is he landed with the Bears, who's very crowded at the wide receiver position. You got Rome Odunze, who might be their wide receiver 1 this year. DJ Moore, who's very similar in terms of skill set to Luther Burden. So I think once DJ Moore moves on, he probably moves into the wide receiver 2 role. But I think right now he's going to be the wide receiver 3, starting the slot for them. I just don't know how much Ben Johnson utilizes those 3 wide receiver sets. So we will see. Next up, we have a guy that I'm super high on. It's Kyle Williams. I think he could be higher up in the B tier easily by the end of the season, just because he has a ton of talent. And he's in an offensive situation where there's not a lot of target competition, high-end target competition at the wide receiver spot. There's Stephon Diggs, and I think he's the second best option right now, Kyle Williams is. He's got great releases, great deep line speed, and he's got a quarterback that's not afraid to throw deep down the field. So I think Kyle Williams can emerge as the wide receiver 1 in this Patriots offense by the end of the year. He's practicing again. I know he had a little head injury in one of the preseason games. He seems like he's back from that, so he should be ready for week 1. So definitely excited for some Kyle Williams. Lastly, in my B tier, we have Jalen Milroe, a guy that I think could get 4 or 5 rushing touchdowns this year, but he's not going to play a whole lot in terms of throwing the football. He did look decent in preseason, and he looked like he developed a good bit, but they believe in Sam Darnold. He's going to be their guy, and I think once Sam Darnold moves on, Milroe will be the guy if he develops the way the Seahawks expect him to. So tons of speed, one of the fastest quarterbacks I've ever seen on film. That's including Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, all those guys, Anthony Richardson. He's just a different level of fast. If you pull up the LSU versus Alabama game last year, he was just torching an SEC defense. So we'll see what he does. Hopefully he can develop, and if he can be an absolute cheat code in fantasy. Let's go ahead and move on to my C tier. All right, at the top of my C tier, we have Jack Besh for the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, guys, I know there's been a lot of negatives about him in camp. He's not playing with the ones. He's been fairly quiet in preseason. I promise you, he was their 2nd round pick. He's going to be out there playing with the starters. I know Dante Thornton's been making a lot of noise as well. I still think he's quite raw. I don't know if his upside's going to hit this year. I think he's going to need to develop a little bit more. Jacoby Myers is looking like he's wanting out of the Raiders. He just requested a trade yesterday, I believe, at this point on the 25th of August. So if he gets out of there and they can't decide on a contract extension for him, Besh could easily be the wide receiver 1 in this offense. I know Brock Bowers exists. He might be the leading target guy on this offense, but in terms of wide receivers, Besh could easily be the number 1 option, and I loved what he put on film in terms of his releases. I loved what he put on film in terms of his contested catch ability. He is a dog after the catch. He will maximize yardage every single play. So I'm excited to see what the Raiders do with Jack Besh. Next up is a guy that I think has the biggest possibility to double in value by midseason, and that's Pat Bryant for the Denver Broncos. So the Broncos just traded Devon Vele away to the Saints, and I think there's a reason for that. Devon Vele was definitely solid for them in the slot last year, almost 500 yards and 3 touchdowns. Pat Bryant is infinitely more talented than Vele, in my opinion. I think he offers great after the catch ability, much better contested catch ability as well, and he's got a big frame, and I think he's got some sneaky long speed too. People don't really talk about his long speed. He's not the quickest off the line, but once he gets those long legs moving, he can really separate deep downfield. So I think with Pat Bryant, I think he's going to start in the slot for them as a power slot, and then long term he replaces Courtland Sutton in that offense. He's already been compared to Michael Thomas by Sean Payton. That was the quote of the offseason for Pat Bryant. So I'm excited to see what he does. I own him in a ton of leagues right now. So fingers crossed that he does phenomenal this season for a rookie. Now, next up, we have Cam Skattebo for the Giants. He's been dealing with an injury throughout preseason, so we didn't really get to see him much outside of week 3. I do think he's the most talented back on that roster. Tyrone Tracy is fine. I think Skattebo is more of a dynamic runner of the football, while I feel Tracy is more of a change of pace third down back. I think by midseason, once he gets his bells in order, I think Skattebo can be the leading carry monster in this offense, and he can definitely get a ton of carries and absorb a ton of carries because he loves contact and he fights through contact like any other back in this class. He's up there with Genty in terms of how hard it is to tackle him. So I'm excited to see what he can do. Long speed, definitely not a strength of his, but we will see how he does. Next up, we have Jaden Higgins, a guy that a lot of people probably put up there towards the top of the B tier. And for me, I just was not a fan out of Iowa State. If I had to be honest, I like Noel out of Iowa State more than Higgins. He played better in the big games, and Higgins didn't look very fast to me. Even though he ran a great 40 time, he didn't look very fast. His separation skills weren't that great, but the one thing that he does have is hands. I think he had the best hands up there with Matthew Golden in terms of the best hands in the entire class. Besh as well in terms of hands. I think Higgins is going to play on the outside, and with Nico Collins already there, I just don't know how many targets he's going to see every game. I hope he proves me wrong, but I wasn't a big fan of Higgins coming out of Iowa State, and I haven't seen much from him in preseason either. Now, another guy that people have been overblowing in value. Look, I was telling people about Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, a.k.a. Bill, in the preseason. I was talking about him way before the preseason, back in March, before he even got drafted. I was like, this kid is amazing. And he ends up going in the 7th round. Nobody knows about him. And then he starts getting a ton of hype. And now people are trading first-round picks to get him, which is absurd. Guys, I think he's talented, but we have no idea what this Commanders backfield's looking like right now with Chris Rodriguez, Austin Eckler, and Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. We don't know how he's going to look, right? He's been decent in the preseason. He had one big run, but guys, he can't be picked over any of these other guys. I've seen him go in the mid-seconds of rookie drafts. That can't happen. I think he's a late second to early third, maybe, hence why this is the top 25 rankings. If you're trying to trade a first-round pick for JCM, don't do it. But overall, he's a guy that is definitely worth getting at the price that I would suggest getting him at. So, yeah, I wouldn't pay what people are overblowing him at right now. Next up, we have Trey Harris for the Chargers. And guys, he has some great hands as well up there towards the top of the class, but he's in a terrible offensive system for wide receivers, right? I think they probably have the least passing attempts in the entire NFL this coming season, just because they have two very durable backs in Omarion Hampton and Najee Harris. Najee Harris hasn't missed a single game in his NFL career thus far. And that just means they're going to run the ball a ton, and emphasis on a ton. And then, unfortunately, I think the wide receivers, including Ladd McConkey, are going to get kind of, limited in terms of their weekly ceiling just because of that. So I do think the Chargers are going to be a good team. They're going to be in competitive games a lot, which means they're going to rely on the run game. And Trey Harris, I think in a lot of other situations, he could be a lot higher up on this list. but with the limited passing upside and his role as an outside X receiver, I just don't see the weekly ceiling for him. I think he's going to be a very frustrating asset in terms of owning him, just because he might have 4 catches for 120 yards and a touchdown one week and then 2 targets for 7 yards the next. It's going to be a very inconsistent asset, I think. Next up, we have Bashal Tutin for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Liam Cohen wanted a running back because he wasn't sold on his running backs, I guess, and he gets the fastest running back in the draft in Bashal Tutin, and that shows up in the film a ton at Virginia Tech. Wasn't in love with his film. His vision wasn't the greatest. His ability to break tackles was definitely underwhelming, but if he gets some space, he sees some daylight, he can break it off to the house from anywhere. That's his kind of strength as a player. In preseason, he looked okay. In camp, he's looked okay. We'll see how he does. I think Travis Etienne is going to be the running back one in this offense, but we'll see how he develops in the coming years. I think in terms of the speed, the explosiveness, he's worth a late round flyer in your rookie drafts. Then last but not least, we have Jalen Noel for the Texans as well. They also drafted Jaden Higgins, of course. And I think he's more talented than Higgins. The problem is he's a slot-specific wide receiver, and they already have Christian Kirk there. And I think Christian Kirk probably moves on next year, and then Noel will be a better option than Higgins, in my opinion, in 2026. But the short-term upside, I don't know how much he plays this year, because Christian Kirk is going to be the guy in the slot until he gets hurt. So, if he gets hurt. So, I think this is a solid opportunity for Noel. I think in 2026, he will be a PPR scam artist. I think he's great in terms of the yak ability. His speed's really good as well. So definitely worth picking up Jalen Noel if you don't have any shares of him. That's my post-cuts top 25 rookie rankings heading into the 2025 season. Remember, situation and role matter just as much as talent, and that's why some of those guys moved way up or way down my list. Who do you think I'm too high on, and who do you think I'm sleeping on? Drop your rankings or your favorite rookies in the comments. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.
Hey.